Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're prepared. This is the last episode of the Hawk's Eye View, and we are ready to make it count. So, with me today, we have our classic board. So, for one last time, introductions, please.
Hi, I'm Hafsa.
I'm Sebastian. Yeah, so this final episode is a pretty standard goodbye to the school. Hopefully that doesn't mean it'll sound bland. You may be able to tell from the frankly subpar audio, but we're recording on a phone once again, but this time in Mr. Brown's office. And by that token, you already know who's with us today.
Yep, for the first time since, 11 episodes, we have Mr. Brown on recording, and this time not just for a lousy interview, but a full episode.
All right, good to see everybody, and I just want to say what a nice job the inaugural podcast is for this first year, and you guys getting this thing started off, and hopefully it can continue for a long time.
So Mr. Brown has decided to accompany us for another episode, this time during Flex, and we're going to just ask him some elementary questions about this year in general that might get outdated. He might say all of these things somewhere else that's much more accessible, but hey, what's saying it right here, right now, that's what matters.
Just the unfortunate truth of news sharing. Sometimes it's irrelevant. Lord knows we understand that, but let's just dive into our first question.
Okay, so Mr. Brown, what do you think some highlights of this year are?
Well, it's been a crazy year. It's been a crazy 2 years, but it's been really cool to see how everybody's pulled together with all of the curveballs that have been thrown our way. The move of the school, dealing with new protocols of coming back to in-person learning and masks and safety things in place. And I think one of the things I'll always remember about this year is how everybody rose to the whatever challenges came our way.
And I think that actually covers the next question we had of challenges this year too. The masks, back to in-person schooling. It really has all been a rough ride for these few years.
Yeah, I mean, raise your hand if you missed some school because of COVID protocols. And I think if you looked around the school here, almost everybody would raise their hands, whether it was just out of precaution or people that actually had some sickness that was COVID or was something else, and we just didn't know until we could get testing in place. And just the amount of absences that we've had to deal with as a school, that alone has been a new challenge that we've never dealt with, and both kids and teachers have done little things here and there to make sure that has the least impact on learning and grades and all of that as possible. And with some hiccups here and there, that alone would have been enough of a big challenge this year. On top of that, we added in not being able to go to our school 2 weeks before school started. So it wasn't just implementing new protocols and procedures, it was implementing them at a school that had never had students and teachers using it.
So the next question would be, how did you feel about the transition from online to in-person learning?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of pieces to that. I was so happy that we were going to be moving off of the online and getting kids back into social situations and all the learning that happens at school that isn't necessarily related to curriculum or a specific class, but letting kids sit and talk while they have lunch together and doing those sorts of things. In addition to working at a school, my daughter attends an elementary school in Fremont. And so her entire kindergarten school year, she never got to go on a playground and run around. She never got to hang out with friends other than online. And it was a tough year for her starting school that way. So by the time she was in first grade this year, there were things that you would take for granted with first graders. Like, she'd never been around older kids on campus in person. That was frightening for her. That's something as a kindergartner you learn, and you do those kinds of things with your teacher and your classmates, and you just build and get confidence. it's the same thing with older kids. There's a lot of little things like that you might not think of right off the bat. We had 2 grade levels of students now that have never been to Hopkins. So when we start school next year, our 8th grade mentors will be learning the new classrooms and where to go, just like the 7th graders are. And so those little social pieces, we had some legwork to do to get caught back up on just how to be a student in person compared to online. It was almost like there was that year and a half of time people were able to forget you could just put your screen on mute on Zoom, and you had access maybe to your cell phone or another device while you were in class, things that no longer were permissible once we got back to in-person. But I'm hoping that most of the kids and families I talked to surely preferred to be in person over on Zoom.
Yeah, especially for 7th graders going to 8th grade in person, it's weird to see that suddenly you're all grown up, you're going to high school next year, and it's just so sudden. Everyone's really tall, and they're so different than you expected them to be when in online learning.
So think about this for a second. You guys don't hold on to your chair so you don't fall out of it if it blows your mind in some way. Right now, there are 6th graders in Fremont that are scheduled to come to Hopkins this next year. They maybe chose for either just personal reasons or health reasons to do the online elementary academy this school year. So they have been out of school now for almost 2.5 years of in-person learning. They're going to potentially come to Hopkins this next fall as 7th graders. Here's the part I want you to wrap your mind around. The last time they were in person with other classmates, they were in 4th grade. Now they're going to be heading into junior high. It's kind of a crazy thing. And there's some similar stories like that of kids that'll be going into high school that missed this 7th and 8th grade in-person interaction with peers as well.
Yeah. Crazy. It's crazy to think about, really.
So, Mr. Brown, what do you hope for next year? And do you have any final messages for the students going to high school?
Yeah, my hope for next year is that we have whatever the new normal is, but a much more normal start to the school year, a much more planned event. We've been in person. We're going to be in person in the fall, barring anything crazy happening, which who knows. But I think that having had this year almost to think about as a practice year, there's not going to be a big transition back to in person. We are going to have a transition back to our Hopkins site, but we're going to have kids that are now familiar with their teachers and have made friendships and can help to mentor the new students that haven't been to Hopkins either. There's just going to be a lot more continuity moving into the next school year, and I'm really hopeful that smooth start and that focus on things, the focus can be on things other than COVID and buses and how to fill an empty school that's never been used, and we're going to be able to focus more on learning and all the things that come with a comprehensive school.
Yeah, we've already started to see the transition with all the boxes stacked in classrooms.
Oh yeah, especially the band room.
And the PE rooms.
And band and orchestra, that brand new facility is going to be ready to go in August. And I have walked through it. It's still under construction. It's getting much closer to being done, some of the final things. It's just beautiful. Our campus is still going to have some construction going on while we're back there. But it's starting to take a shape where we can really see what the layout, what the new school is going to be when we get 6th graders in about a year from now. And it's pretty exciting.
All right, so let's just make the shift to some more lighthearted, rapid-fire questions about more specific things in this school year, such as what happened to the bathrooms? I'm sorry if you can't be more specific about exactly what happened. I know it's something that's a bit Mouth taped shut.
As you guys know, there are 954 students at this school right now, and 99.9% of them are good kids who have good intentions and make good choices all the time, but not everybody makes the best choices 100% of the time. And as you know, we don't have nearly that many staff members to monitor everything. So we can't be in every location all the time. And we found that some inappropriate behavior was happening in restrooms where obviously I can't just go in and monitor all the time, especially when we've got different genders and things like that. So we made the decision to go ahead and close up a couple of those and focus where we could have more supervision to make sure we're keeping kids safe and helping them to make better choices. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's fine.
Another one was, this is kind of weird, but we noticed after a while that the school year started, the trash cans were like taped shut. Even the ones in the near the lunch line are taped shut. So why is that?
Good observations on your guys' parts. So some of the trash cans at this school were built in. They weren't, and other ones we brought with us. Now, this is a weird thing about learning about developers that build schools in districts that have long-standing practices and things where they order. We didn't have the right trash bags that fit properly in a square receptacle. And so what we did is we just brought our round ones with us and tried to put them next to those. Those ones that are built in are really hard to empty out and clear. And so what was happening, the bags would come off and there'd be lots of milk that would be spilled and make bad messes and stink up. So we just decided to kind of tape those off, and we'll see if the elementary decides to use them or order those kinds of things. It's a silly reason, but it's like a ordering and money thing.
Yeah. Oh, okay, so this one's kind of an odd one, but what deal did we cut with Lila Bringhurst to get to use their campus?
Well, it's interesting. There really wasn't a deal because Lila Bringhurst wasn't open. It's been completed and done for about 3 years, but there weren't enough students that lived in this area here that would feed into the school for it to open. And so it was just an empty building that was already sitting here. And so making it work for a school took a lot of effort that probably kids and staff members didn't see up front. I mean, it's every little detail. There were not paper towels in the paper towel dispensers or toilet paper or a broom in the janitor's closet because it wasn't being used as of yet. There wasn't a flag to raise up on the flagpole. Little things like cones to put out in the parking lot to help direct traffic and keep the flow going. Even the streets around this school hadn't been handed over to the Fremont Police Department or the city from the developer yet. And so we had mail that couldn't be delivered and people come. It didn't show up on some Google searches and map things. And so it was almost like we were occupying a place that only partly existed for us, that for the rest of the world. For us, it was very real. And so it's not that we owed them anything, but I will say, working and meeting with the new principal, Miss White, that will be here this upcoming school year, there's a lot of things we're going to be able to hand over to her that I didn't have coming in here with you guys. Evacuation routes for classrooms and where to go out on the field and procedures like that. We've had the fire marshal come through to check things. We've had work orders for things to be fixed that never were completed. Some bathrooms that didn't have hot water in them for washing hands. Like there's a lot of little things like that they'll never know were problems to begin with. And so I feel like that's been a pretty good deal for them, because I think your next question will probably hit on some of the things that 7th and 8th graders have tore up at an elementary school, but they are getting something back in return as well.
Yep, you got us. But before we get to that, I think it's really telling that the fact that this looks like such a new school makes it evident that you guys really did a good job on the glow up. It's like 3 years. I did not expect this place to be 3 years old at this point.
it's amazing how it looks when it's not occupied or used.
Yeah. But yeah, our last little quick inquiry is, what are the consequences of our actions at this school? What's gonna happen to Lila?
Yeah, so we are, as you've seen with your teachers, they're packing up their rooms. Things are going to start being delivered over to Hopkins. There's some big moves planned over the summer, so when they come back, their items will be there. And, there are some little things that happen. It's the regular wear and tear of a school year. There's cleaning that's going to happen, painting that's going to happen. I think you guys have probably noticed in the hallways the black marks from backpacks. You guys are bigger than the intended kids that would be here. Elementary kids are a different size, and so those walls weren't made for you. Many of the bathrooms weren't made for you, the furniture. So they're going to get work orders, and the district maintenance department will be in here working over the summer to kind of shine it back up before the new group of elementary students makes this their new home.
All right, so that's just the end of our questions. And so that should really just wrap up our final episode. Any last comments on the podcast, school, anything we want to get off our chests?
To anyone who actually listens to the podcast, if you're in 8th grade and you're worried about high school, I don't know what to tell you because I'm also worried about high school.
Okay.
But for 7th graders, have fun at your next year in Hopkins on site. And yeah.
I'll tell you my saying for going to high school. Kids that hated junior high or middle school, high school is better. Kids that loved junior high and middle school, high school is better. You've got a lot more experiences, opportunities, choices, things to get involved with, and I'd urge you to get involved with it. So just know that it even so, as much as you loved it or didn't love it, there's always going to be room for it to be better almost 100% of the time once you get to high school.
Yeah, a lot of stuff to do in high school. Anyways, so thank you to all the people who have listened to this podcast the whole way through. Thanks to Mr. Brown for allowing us to have this last episode with him. And thank you so much, Hafsa and Sebastian, and all the previous members of the Hawk's Eye View. You've all made this ride worth remembering and maybe even worth trying another year. But that'll be all for the Hawk's Eye View. Have a wonderful time in high school. I'll see all of you soon. Bye.
Bye.